Hey, and we're live.
Oh!
We're live.
Oh!
Live. Let me just make sure we're not.
We are live.
Hey, everybody. Hey, gentlemen. The Two
Hey,
Top
brothers.
Tuesday.
Episode
19
18?
this week. 19.
Whoa.
Yeah. I believe
my
it's
God.
19.
God. Can you even remember, like, one day we'll just sit down and, like, list the guests. I can't even
Yeah,
remember
we'll
them
have
all.
to do a best of
Yeah.
a DVD compilation at the end, So
There you go. Yeah. Because DVDs are selling hot. Right now.
VHS box.
exactly.
Like a K-Tel compilation.
Yeah.
Hey,
there
Brent.
you go.
Brent Fitz is
Hey,
back
Brent Fitz is here today.
in the house.
Yeah. Welcome back. What's going on, Brent?
I was lost. I'm
How's
back.
Canada?
It's good, but I'm sad today. We lost
Yes.
somebody. Check it out.
Yeah.
In honor of
Dale Howardchuk.
Dale passed away today. So,
I can't believe I was so shocked when I saw that.
well,
So he's like 57
Yeah,
years
well-
old.
yeah.
Dale Howard.
Cancer.
No, Dale Howardchuk was from the Winnipeg Jets, and he just passed away today from stomach cancer. It's an awful story, but what was his era? When did he play the Jets?
Well, he was, rookie of the year when the Jets were brought into the NHL in the late 70s. The Jets exist, of course, in the early 70s in the WHA. But yeah, he was basically, rookie star. He was the guy for the Jets, And,
That's so sad. Yeah. That's awfully young. That's way too young.
He had it twice too. His stomach cancer. He had beat it and it came back. And
Oh,
that's
man.
unfortunate. Is that it didn't stick when he initially was cleared. So, and it's just funny because off topic, we've all been talking about friends and people with cancer, but I have a family member that's dealing with it that's doing okay right now. But man, it's crazy that. And Corey, you and I've talked about family and cancer and stuff, but
Yeah.
it's just it's not kind. So
Yeah.
we just lost another person today. So
Yeah.
but we can be positive. I'm happy.
Yeah.
I'm happy to be in
Yeah.
Winnipeg still and miss you guys. I
We got-
see Darren a little. Darren and I are on the other side of town today, but I was
Okay.
gonna surprise Darren, but I thought I'm gonna go back to the Jet logo.
To see that. Lee Wren's house.
Yeah.
Why don't you put out Lee Wren's address like Chris Jericho does every single time? Chris will actually say Lee Wren's address like that, whatever the number is. He'll say like on whatever street. I always laugh. I'm like, people must drive by Lee's house and go, "Hey, that's what."
Yeah. Well, because Chris Jericho grew up down the street from us here, so
I
yeah,
know.
Lee was always the dot that connected all of us.
And Lee has had
still
his own
does.
house. Lee has had his own house since what, he was 11 or something? How long has he been? Seems like
I
he's
know.
had that house for a long time.
Yeah, the rest of us were all like, moving and trying to, get our careers going. And Lee had already settled in, but he's doing what he's been doing since high school. He's selling houses today. So, and apparently the housing market is still strong considering all the COVID stuff. But Lee, the other day, he goes, I sold 3 houses this week already.
There you go, folks. We should all move to Winnipeg.
That's
Well,
pretty
don't move.
impressive.
If you're going to move right now and then get out of there like in about 30 days because it's about to get gnarly in
But
Winnipeg.
there's COVID cases here that are rising. So it's a
Uh-oh.
little bit alarming here, guys. So we were clear for a long time. Hey, Darren. And then, the cases have been
Well,
escalating a bit. So
this whole thing only started with one case.
Yeah,
so
it's been popping up
That's
with
true.
with
It's
big
all it
numbers
takes.
here. I mean,
Are we
went
ever
from
gonna be
having
safe?
13, 14 days of nothing to 30 a day, which is kind of shocking. And and that's school's not even back in yet. So I mean, we've got to kind of tackle that in a couple of weeks too. So we'll see how that goes.
Oh, boy.
Well,
you been out, Todd? Did you go out?
Yeah, I get out once in a while. I had coffee with a socially distanced coffee with Frank Sidoris and Craig Gass, comedian friend of ours, and Mikey Ramone.
And is it, what's Vegas like? I literally feel like an outsider asking about it's like.
It feels dystopian. It's weird. Like I've become so, I don't know about you guys, but I've become so accustomed to just seeing people in masks that it's not even weird anymore. It's just kind of like totally normal. What are you gonna do? It's been interesting. I was in and out of LA a couple times too, which is even more interesting because the mask thing is even more serious there as far as people wearing it, masks, on the street. Like the second you leave the house or get out of the car, you got a mask on you.
You guys are really cheering me up.
Russell's in the background.
I'm like,
We're
what?
bumming
Okay.
Yeah, exactly. We should get him on. We got to include.
Yeah.
Voyeur vision.
Yeah, exactly.
Darren, you should do the intro. Darren
Yeah, why don't
is
you
wearing
do
the
the intro,
appropriate shirt and
Not
has been
only
wearing
is
that shirt.
he's been wearing this shirt almost every week for 19 weeks. The giant. When are you going to
Exactly.
get Russ Dwarf on here?
Well, I mean, without further ado, we've got one of Canada's best rock vocalists.
And probably Canada's best.
Oh yeah, who else can do head
Let's be
spins
honest.
like that? I mean, if you've never seen it, Google that. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Russ Dwarf of the Killer Dwarfs.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Talk to my surgeon.
How's your neck holding up?
Oh, I've had to tone my activities down, and I am a senior now. So my new album's coming out, Seniors Discount.
It's watching a video, and I was like, just checking out like a recent show, and it's you crowd surfing, it's like upside down.
Oh,
Are you still up to these crazy stage antics?
I'm not supposed to be doing that anymore. I've had to tone it down. I had some surgery 2 years ago. Apparently, I had 2 discs crushing my spinal cord. I have no idea how that happened.
I could probably tell you.
Yeah, but apparently, but they did a really good job. The guy's name was Dr. Harris, so I thought that was a good sign. Steve Harris was a good cat.
Yeah.
And he was English, but they did a great job. But I've had to cool up. My body's pretty beat up after 40 blah blah years of this comedy.
Yeah.
But I wasn't thinking. Didn't really plan that out. It just comes at me when I hear the racket.
I suppose that's probably the case, right? Like, it's not like some sort of like rehearsed or choreographed thing. You just kind of went out there, the music started, and it just did that to you.
Yeah, exactly. Oh no, I planned everything.
Exactly.
I'm like the Paula Abdul of rock.
So Russ, take us back to the beginning, because we usually like to tell these stories. We have viewers on from all over the world, and a lot of what this show and this band has been about was exposing Canadian music that people may or may not have heard of, and bands that people may or may not have heard of. And so take us back to the early days. I mean, Killer Dwarfs is obviously something, but prior to that, taking up in Southern Ontario, what was it like?
Yeah, where did you actually grow up, Russ?
I grew up. I was born in Newmarket, just down the street from here, and but I had Russ's parents, and we moved to Florida in the '60s.
Oh, really?
I'm like 100 years old, and so we lived in Jacksonville in the '60s and '70s. And my parents were restless, so we came right back around the corner from where we had left when I was about 13. And then it was the music gag. Like, I guess when I was in Florida, I was a kid, but I got Alice Cooper was one of my biggest, like, first rock and roller that I loved and everything, right? To the degree of you know how it is. You're taken by the bug.
Absolutely.
And so when I hit Canada, which was weird too, because I had grown up in the South, and so I had a funny accident.
Wow. Oh,
And,
I bet.
and so grade 8 was a bit weird, and but I met some. Actually, this is a wacky story. I wasn't in a band or anything, but I love music. I jumped around my living room my whole life, right? To Foghat and shit, Bachman Turner Overdrive and all that. But I had a friend of mine. I was into motorcycles and stuff, and I raced motocross. And when I was a kid, and in this plaza, there was this where this Yamaha dealer was, where I worked there too, and there was this high-end audio place. God, what was the name of it? I'm so old I can't remember. But they also had it was a group of guys, and they rented PAs, and they also rented or sold high-end hi-fi gear and crap, right? But they had a gospel band too, and but these guys are the craziest motherfuckers ever. Like, I was just a kid, right? And I hung around there too, and I would go in the back, and they had this drawer called the habit drawer. So
That doesn't sound good.
you could pretty much figure out what happened. But they were gospel singers, but they were insane partiers. And one of the guys, he was like, took me under his wing. His name was Ed Weidman, and he had actually been in Elvis's band in the 70s.
Whoa.
He was a bass singer in the Stamps.
Oh wow.
Anyways, long story longer. Like, I wasn't in a band or anything. I did try out. I'd never been in a band, and there's always a band in the school, high school or whatever, which I spent actually 10 minutes of my life in high school. I would walk up to the school every day, and my parents worked weird shifts. My dad was a night shift, my mom was a day shift. But I would walk up to the high school, and I would look at the school and go, no. And I would go back home, and I would hide under my bed until my old man went to work, and then I would get up and blast tunes and jump around the living room all day long. So I was preparing to be a singer. But I went to this. There was this band. There's always a school band, right? There's always there's the cool guys, right? And I went to they looking for a singer. I went to audition for them, and they pretty much laughed me out of the place. It was a crushing blow for a young. I'm still getting help for that, but so that was my first kick in the pants, which is probably good for you. I remember walking home and remember laying in my bed thinking, I will get you all, right? But then another friend of mine, he was a guitar player. He was from Bombay, India. His name is Sarosh Chesson. And we befriended each other, and he was huge into tunes too. And he was in this weird band, a bunch of older guys than me. I don't know, they were probably 20. And I went to a practice with him, but before I went to the practice, I went and talked to my buddy the gospel guy, and he lent me a mic stand and a mic and a mic cord. And I went down there and just pushed my way into this freaking band. I think we called them the Stink Brothers. There was two twins. I hope they're not alive watching this. I can remember going to rehearsal on a Saturday mornings in this van, and the sun coming in, and these two stinky guys, and it was just brutal. But anyways, I digress. So, I don't know, and then, eventually you get in the band with your buddies that we're going to make it to the top, and
sure,
that gag and everything. And that's when I really probably concentrated more on nothing, getting high.
Yeah.
Getting high and rocking out. And, I don't know.
So fast forward to the Dwarfs, I guess. Prior to that, correct me if I'm wrong, you guys were a Black Sabbath tribute band. Was that not?
No, that's nonsense.
Fake news?
Fake news.
I had just read that somewhere today when we were kind of going through our notes. So take us through how that band came to be then. Yeah.
The Dwarfs, you mean?
Yeah.
Well, I was in another band, and it was a weird. We did all sorts of stuff from Pat Benatar to Zeppelin. Obviously, I could sing that high like only dogs could hear me. God, I cringe when I hear that stuff. Anyways, I've matured now. I'm like Tony Bennett now. But so I was in this band. It was called Oz, and we did an Alice Cooper show too, of course. So one of the sets was an Alice Cooper show. We were on a tour out east. Like, oh my God, touring in those days as kids, right? The Fugue van, everything stuffed in the bloody thing. Let's go to Newfoundland. This could be fun.
Yeah, right.
And I remember they wanted to kill me there. It was one of those, we did the whole Ballad of Dwight Fry and everything where I had a straight jacket and spit blood. And we were up in some little cove up in Newfoundland. And I'm digressing again. You guys are making me remember this stuff.
Oh,
and
yeah.
I the Ballad of Dwight Fry's the big, you know how moody it is and everything. And I'd be in the straight jacket, I'd start spitting blood. The place is like crickets, right? They're all there, but they're like, they wanted to kill me. And I remember the next day I was like in a pharmacy, and some two women they were ready to kill me. They thought I was Satan or something, right? Anyway, so on this tour, I don't know if you guys know because you're so young. A place in Quebec City called Electric Circle Electrique. You ever heard of that place?
I remember the name. Yeah, that's before my time.
It was a gig. It was a great gig actually. It was in the old part of Quebec City. It was like an old theater, and this old school teacher was like the liaison. I don't know who ran the place. Probably some giant drug dealers, but this old lady would be running it. She'd come with peanuts in a envelope and everything, and he'd do like 5 sets a night. Quebec in those days, it was like crazy, right?
Yeah.
And so anyways, a long story longer, you had the band house or whatever. So the band that was coming in after us, they came in a day early and they had no place to stay. So it was Dunk's band, Daryl, right?
Okay.
Fritz knows Dunk, and we've known each other a long time.
Yeah.
And
went on to become Daryl Dwarf, essentially.
Daryl Dwarf, yes, correct.
Yeah.
This is pre-Daryl Dwarf and pre-Russ. So they came in a night early, and we said, "Oh, just hang with us." So of course we partied like maniacs and everything. And Dunk and I got talking, and we weren't happy with either band, so we said, "Okay, you take Bryce, the guitar player, and I'll take Ange, the bass player, and we'll make a band." And it was funny because I think we stayed one extra night to watch them, and they were a 3-piece band, and Dunk was behind the kid. He was like the lead singer, right? And I remember walking up to the stage with him, or it might have been when we were going on. I can't remember. I'm so fucking old. Anyways, I remember Dunk going to me, "I always wanted to be a lead singer." And he went up on stage and he grabbed the mic like he was the front guy and everything. But, from there we finished what we were doing with those two bands. His band was Sphinx from Oshawa.
Okay.
And so it was around November 81. We rehearsed in the basement apartment he lived in with his girlfriend. Oh my God, that must have been insane for people. And we had our first gig on New Year's Eve, 1981, at the Janosh Hotel in the Oshawa, Ontario. And that was another famous shithole establishment.
Now, was that called Killer Dwarfs? Did you guys do those first gigs?
At that point, we that's a whole nother story. At that point, we were going by Dunk's band's name, Sphinx, at that gig. But you could basically say that's when we officially started. And then we were trying to get gigs, right? Like Dunk's dad was a real estate agent, and he let us use some building that wasn't for sale. Maybe your buddy could sell that building.
There you go. Dunk's a lead rent.
And I remember him coming in there and kicking us. "Okay, that's enough. Get the fuck out of here." And I remember me and Dunk in the winter on Highway 2 in a phone booth. Remember those kids, phone booths?
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Trying to call agents to get gigs, right? We couldn't get arrested. And there was an agency. I'm not going to start mentioning names here, but I remember we went down to this agent. And it was like gigs Toronto and everything. And he goes, we're like, "We want to play the Gasworks, man. That's the big gig, right? Playing out where the trees stop growing." And he said, he's like Truman Capote. He had his feet up on the desk, and he said, "You guys are too ugly. You'll never play. You'll never play Toronto. You're not good looking like Sanders." Wow. So anyways, I said something. I'm not going to say what I said. And Dunk said, "No, he didn't say that. He didn't mean it like that." I said, "Yeah, I fucking did mean it like that." Anyway, so we didn't get that gig. And we tried, and like everybody else, playing and playing and playing. You know, in those days we played probably 200-300 shows a year, right?
Yeah, of course.
With your $11.95 a week and your freaking electric frying pan.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Eat that loaf of bread.
So I mean, and let's talk the obvious. Speaking of the name, I mean, I could only make the assumption Killer Dwarfs. Is that kind of playing off the Leafs, or was that just something that just kind of stuck?
No, it was a manager we had at the time. So we got a manager, Bob Connolly, from Toronto, and he had Lee Aaron was on that with him, and I think Sanders was with him too. I can't recall. And Dave Kirby, you know Dave Kirby.
I know Dave Kirby well, yeah.
Yeah, Dave and
Passed
Bob,
on.
yeah, and he was we have a great history with Dave, and him and Connolly. First, they wanted to get rid of me and get. They wanted the guys to be Lee's band. Lee's a backup band.
Oh, Lee Aaron's backing band, really?
Yeah, that's what they wanted, and they wanted me to do a Journey tribute. So,
Okay. I can't picture that.
Well, I would have been perfect for that at that age, for sure.
Well, yeah.
Anyways, yeah, Satan's Cabana Boy. So basically, you know, they were trying to think up a name for us because they didn't like that name, and we went to the office and they said, "Oh, we got this name, Killer Dwarfs," and we were like, "What the fuck?" You know. And then, you know, we did promo and stuff. The promo, if you guys could see, I should have brought some stuff up, but totally politically incorrect of today's standards. Everybody's offended. Anyways, it kind of stuck, and it stuck. And you know, 40 years later, here we are. But it was you know, now it just seems normal. But when people ask me, I would still be like, you know, what's the name of your band? Killer Dwarfs. I still say it at this age. My doctor, why are you in such rough shape? Well, what do you do for a living?
Yeah.
Nothing.
I'm a Killer Dwarf. Well, it's funny because where we grew up, at least from like the distance in the prairies from where the Killer Dwarfs came from, by the time you guys sort of made your way out our way, the legend had loomed. You know, even the logo. I'm looking at Darren's shirt, and it'd be like, I remember being fascinated by like some of the letters are capitalized and some of them are like are lowercase letters, and it was kind of like they're called the Killer Dwarfs. They're like 4 feet tall. Of course, it was like no one knows that this is true, and the singer's doing somersaults and standing on his head and riding a tricycle on stage, and we're like, what? So by the time you guys came, it was kind of like, I don't think anybody had ever seen anything like it. And I was telling these guys earlier how, like, after you guys had came across once, it seemed like every band, the singers were all trying to be Russ Dwarf. And I'm sure a lot of those guys are in way worse shape than you are because of it.
Really? I never knew that. I think were you in Winnipeg at the time? Did you ever see us in the early days back then?
I was in Saskatchewan. Fitz was in Winnipeg, yeah.
I saw you, Russ. I snuck into the zoo.
The zoo.
Village.
Yeah.
So maybe on first album. So would that be like 86 or something?
That's 84, 83 was the first album, and I think the first spring or the winter of 84, and the zoo, that was insanity in there in those days. That was just outrageous.
I didn't get in. That's the thing. It was so sold out, and I was so underage, and I was already playing clubs, but they were real sticklers for ID, even though we didn't have picture ID. They wouldn't fucking let me in. I was so fucking bummed. But the people were like in the parking lot. Like, it was so packed back in those days.
Yeah, I remember those shows were off the freaking hook, and we used to destroy that place. Just absolutely, it was absolutely crazy. And that was historic, that place for sure. You know,
it's no longer there.
It's no longer there, yeah. I saw that, yeah.
I saw you guys at the Windsor.
At the Windsor.
84 or 85, the Windsor at Red Deer.
Oh, Dead Rear, yeah, and those were crazy. Those were crazy things too.
Yeah.
I think we were like traveling on a Greyhound bus, for God's sakes. Like, I think the crew went in a truck and we had to get bus tickets. Oh my God.
I remember that place just being told. I actually talked to you after the gig too. I went up and like, oh man, Russ, how you doing? And I really think I had. I'm not sure how I got it. I guess I was 18, but so maybe it was 85, 84.
Yeah, that would be around that time.
It,
Yeah,
it was the first record though.
that's
Do you
crazy.
guys remember you guys were featured on a Metal for Breakfast album, which somehow everybody had?
Yeah.
That was on Attic as well. On Attic.
That was Attic, because that was our first deal, right?
Which song was on Metal for Breakfast?
Heavy Mental.
Heavy Metal. Yeah. That's a good one.
Yeah. That's it. Like that's crazy. You guys saw those gigs. That's crazy.
So what?
And then
Yeah, go ahead.
I was going to say, well, for then eventually you guys were everywhere on our TVs because the videos were epic. I mean, they are to this day. They're you look back and you go, those were fucking incredible.
Who came up with the concept?
Just clever.
For Stand Tall, like Stand Tall and Alone, because it really created this image of like, you know, you guys can't be controlled and you're gonna do it yourself, and that whole vibe was just hilarious. The way to kind of making your own record.
Those were homemade. It was actually, it's another weird story. It was my little brother's best friend's brother was worked as an editor on Lauren Green's New Wilderness.
Oh yeah,
that's the most Canadian story ever,
right? And I actually knew him. He lived around the corner from us and everything. But he was with a team of young guys too. That they've all become really well known in their field, and especially special effects. The special effects guys were great. And so like to keep the spirit alive took like 6 months because we had no money. So we would do it in spits and spurts and everything, and the same with Tall. I think Tall was like, I think the budget was like 14 grand. It was like, oh my God, it's like Cher or something. So we those videos, and we were it was the right time, like that 83 or whatever. Much Music, or I think it was before Much Music. Toronto Rocks. I don't know if that came across this country, but the other CBC one, what the hell was that called? CBC rock show. Terry David Mulligan. Terry Mulligan, and then
Good Rockin' Tonight.
Good Rockin' Tonight, and the
video hits later on.
John Stewart.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. But Toronto Rocks. I forget his name. He was a great guy too. He died of cancer too. Speaking
Toronto
of the
Rocks
cancer thing, it's terrible. Toronto Rocks, but
was that Dan Gallagher? Is that
super? It helped. Dan Gallagher.
Yeah, because he passed away too, right?
He passed away too. He had a heart attack quite a few years ago, about 20 years ago, I think. And he was great. He was a good pal of ours. But much music hadn't started yet. I think it was New Music, because we did the first interview we did with New Music was down on Queen Street East. Dunk actually lives right there right now. But
J.D. Roberts.
J.D. Roberts he did our first interview, and now he's the big wig on Fox.
John Roberts. Yeah.
John Roberts, yes. So. But the videos really, and in those days, right, there's no internet, so it's like, this is the best advertising you could possibly get, but prior to that, in the 70s and the 60s, record companies did those videos, but no one ever saw it. It was just for Vogues and stuff, right?
Right.
Promo crap.
Mm-hmm.
But it did such a great job for us, especially when MTV started, because they had the Headbangers Ball, and we were still independent, right? Because Stand Tall, we had lost our record deal with that, so we had another kind of like licensing deal. That's a whole other story. Anyways, when MTV played those, they were the 2 most requested independent videos of all time. At the time, and that got so you can see us in Peoria,
Yeah.
So when we came to those towns, that was a great thing. They already, you didn't have to like whatever kids do today. I don't know what they do.
Well, yeah, I guess that was the whole purpose of Much Music and MTV, was so that by the time you got to that town, they had seen you, they had heard you. It's the same as getting played on the radio, I guess.
Yeah, which we never did.
Well, yeah.
And I think you guys had a good exposure touring with Maiden around that time. I would say, right?
That was '88. That was after we got the Epic deal. So we had done. So we did, the first album. We did Tall, which that helped us get the deal, the U.S. deal with Epic out of New York. But the main was '88. That was that was the big deal album. Yeah.
Yeah.
That made
you too.
Great.
Is that when you guys were living in the States? Did you guys relocate to Los Angeles at some point?
We were there a lot after Weapons. It started there at Weapons.
Okay.
Because Andy Johns did, a couple of albums. We did, Simon Hanhart did Big Deal. So we did that album and toured that record. And then when we did Weapons, we wanted to get a different producer. We love Simon and everything, but I wanted to get Rick Derringer.
Oh, wow.
But we ended up getting, I love Rick Derringer. He's one of my all-time favorites from when I was a kid. Got a lot of jumping around the living room with that guy.
Hang on, Sloopy.
Yeah, hang on, Sloopy. And senior moment. Okay.
Andy Johns.
Andy Johns.
Andy Johns. So we, this is, before the internet, so you can't really research this stuff, and you don't understand. Like I'm sure all you guys are fanatical about, credits on records and, that kind of gag. Who did this and blah blah blah. So we liked the drum sound on the Cinderella album. I think Night Songs, or I can't remember what album it was, but we really liked the drum sounds on that record. So we tried to contact him. We had the Epic deal, and Epic was totally against it. They were like, because he has a reputation. He had a wicked reputation of being insane.
He liked to have a drink or two, that's for sure.
He liked to have a lot of things. And so the story with Andy, I got to tell you, I love Andy so much. Him and I became such great friends. We talked every single week from the 90s on up to when he passed. Him and I were great pals. And he's one of a kind. But here's the deal with him. So Epic's like, no, because he had done all the stuff with Eddie Money and gotten a lot of shit. They caused a lot of trouble. And he's just a maniac, right? But he wasn't the kind of guy that conformed to the business. Like his brother, Glenn, I don't know if you know him. He's like the elder statesman of, he has done everything. Like read his book, you'll blow your fucking mind. And he's the English statesman kind of guy, and Andy's just like a fucking maniac, right? Like Andy was in the studio, when his brother was doing Hendrix when he was 14, and the Stones and everything. He was like the T-boy at Olympic and stuff like this, right? So he comes by it, like if you look those two up, in the top, they've done like 14% of the freaking top 200 records of all time. It's insane.
So we have to mention that the Led Zeppelin records speak
Totally.
volumes right there.
Totally.
Andy Johns.
Absolutely. And the Stones, and it goes on. It's this, I'm fanboy at this point because it's like, that's the music, the 70s that I love and everything, right? But anyway, blah blah blah. I'm rambling on as usual. But I'll tell you the story of Andy when he. So Epic said no. We said yes. So we tried to get him up. We were in pre-production for Weapons, right? So we didn't have any gigs scheduled, and we booked him a flight to come up, and he missed it. And we booked him another one, so we had to book gigs for him. Okay, we're gonna book this gig. Andy can come see us. We do this like 4 times. He misses he misses it 4 fucking times, right? So finally, we get him to a freaking gig in Kitchener or something. I can't remember what it was. And he comes in, and he's the big fella. He is like 6'6", 5'6", right, and 200 pounds. He's a giant man, and he's got like a purple or Dodgers jacket on, or blue Dodgers jacket, giant, cowboy hat, and giant colored glasses, and he's just like, and he's like, I want to put B3 on your album. I'm like, fuck you. You haven't even heard the band yet, right? I can't tell some of these stories because I feel like
That's the idea. That's the idea.
Basically, that's what we're doing.
We are just talking, yeah.
But anyway, so he sees the band and everything that night, and I'm walking out of the gig with him, and he goes to me, I hate your fucking band.
What?
I hate your fucking band, but you're really funny. Let's do it.
Wow.
So that's how that started.
Wow.
So where was that recorded? In Los Angeles?
That was in LA. We did that at Sunset, and we did it at a private studio called what the hell was it called? I'm senior moment. I just want to see what's my dog doing back there. Anyways, it was a privite studio in Toluca Lake, owned by Hank Santicoli Jr. His dad was Hank Santicoli Sr., who managed Frank Sinatra.
Oh, wow.
And it was a cool place, and it was bizarre because it was a beautiful neighborhood. It backed up onto Bob Hope's estate, actually. And one of the neighbors was Jonathan Winters.
Oh, wow.
So I'd be driving in there, and I would see him, and he would see me, and I could see him looking at me like, fuck you, get out of my But after 6 months, he kept seeing me at the gas station, and he like waved to me and stuff, and I was like, wow, that was wicked.
So Russ, going back and forth a little bit here, just quickly, just to tie in, somebody just was asking a question online, and I know we touched on it a few minutes ago, and I just didn't want to interrupt the story, but was there a particular song or a band that made you decide that you wanted to get into music in general? Like, was there, where was that turning point in your life where you went from just, this is what I'm going to do?
Alice, I guess. Oh, Rick Derringer.
Rick Derringer. It was Cooper probably for the frontman stuff or just the lead singer thing, and Bowie and Derringer for sure. Those were my, when I was like 13, those were like a big deal to me. You know what I mean? Dunk and I, we love the Coop so much, right? You can't beat those early records. You're just off the hook.
Totally. So
they have everything.
Was it an official thing to eventually name everybody Dwarf like the Ramones, or did that just kind of happen? Or how did that, was this something you guys kind of came up with, or did it just kind of like, we'll just...
It was like a joke that went awry.
As they often do.
Because we would be like in a record store, and we'd see people looking at the album and saying, they're all brothers, man. Yeah, I know they're all brothers, right? It's like the name Killer Dwarfs. It's like a state of mind. It's like Texas. Dunk is like 6'3".
Yeah, I know, yeah. Yeah, it never made much sense because, like I said, I remember hearing you guys were like tiny people, and they're just kind of. But it's the beauty of that thing with all that same last name, the crazy logo, and everything. Just this image just loomed along. I think that's really it's important. And the videos just doubled up that whole image of like these guys are. You're in a box. They keep you in a box apparently between gigs, according to the videos. So,
yeah,
I think all this stuff started to become just reality to us.
We love the comedy. Dunk and I, in those days, you gotta laugh or you're gonna cry, and we were just too pig-headed to stop. And we loved it so much. It doesn't matter what shit you're gonna go through. You just love it. It's like you're living your dreams. You know what I mean? It's amazing. It's absolutely incredible.
It's like those guys that supposedly laughed you out of the rehearsal that time you were auditioning. Those guys all tell stories of how Russ Dwarf
Yeah, exactly.
came to our rehearsal once. And,
That little bastard.
You know, Russ, I'm curious not to go back, but on the first record, you know, recording at Phase One, I'm kind of like a studio geek.
Cool.
But like, how did you guys scrounge up the cash to go do that first record? Like, was there a budget from the label at that point, or you guys?
Yeah, it was a record deal. We originally went in. That's a whole nother. It's a good story, but we got the deal with Addict, and we went in and did some demos. Actually, Anvil was doing metal on metal with Chris Sangarini's in there, and I've been friends with those guys since Christ was a cowboy. But we did some demos because we were writing, but these were older tunes from Dunk's band, and I think they're actually on a reissue of the first album or something. I don't have it, but that's what I've seen. Anyways, so we did a demo with Chris there for Addict, and it would have been great to have him have done the record, but that didn't work out. And the owner of Phase One, Doug Hill, producing it, he was involved in the.
That's right.
I
And
think
Rob-
all
Robin
those Triumph
Brown.
records were made there as well, right?
They were the same place, yeah. And we
I've
did
never
big
been
deal.
there.
We did Big Deal there too. I don't think it's. I think they've rearranged it. I don't think it's the same place as it was. That's what I've heard. I don't know if it's just mixing rooms, or I don't really know what's going on. I don't know what happened to that board and everything. But yeah, that was a great place.
Yeah.
Awesome place.
Brent, maybe did you record there ever?
At where?
Phase One, Toronto.
No, I
No.
wish. No, I've
I've
never
done
done any good.
Been there.
I worked
I've
at
never
Metalworks.
recorded in Toronto.
Metalworks had mixed a record at Metalworks, which was owned by Gilmour, I guess.
Yeah, Gilmore, and he was good friends with Doug Hill, the
Right.
owner of Phase One, and apparently it's the same setup. It was.
I see.
Okay.
That's what I heard. I have never been to Metalworks.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Was-
I was
was
gonna say
Nick-
the productions are similar, like that first Dwarfs record and like Allied Forces or something. It's like
Yeah,
the sound is very similar.
yeah, that was a great room. That old
Yeah, I
Neve,
bet.
the old Neve, the old timey Neve, and the old 2-4 scooter there by. Get the razor blades out.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Those days are long gone. Man, oh man.
Cutting and doing.
Yeah, cutting and doing. So what? So did you actually live in Los Angeles, or you were just working and recording in Los Angeles? Did you actually relocate?
Yeah. I didn't. Dunk eventually did, and I think Cod did too. But we were there so much.
Right.
Like Weapons took 6 months.
Did you just stay up in Toluca Lake in that area, or where were you?
We were up at the Jokewood apartments.
Sure.
and,
Yeah. Joking.
And I stayed at Andy's a lot. He was
Where
up
did
in,
Andy live?
he lived up in the hills on
Oh, okay.
Mulholland.
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, Russ, I did work at Cherokee on a record with Andy.
You did.
And he
cool.
actually, we talked more about your guys' record and you guys more than any band. You know,
Are
I
you
could have
serious?
briefed him on like, hey, let's go through, tell me about all the Led Zeppelin records and how you recorded
Yeah.
the drums. But he was really proud of, and we talked a lot about the drum sound on Dirty Weapons and whatnot. That was more of our
That's awesome.
conversations, was about the Killer Dwarfs albums. And
That's
that
awesome.
really happened. And that was
That's-
at Cherokee, and
That's
that was
totally
like
cool. I love
around
that.
2000.
I love that. That's awesome. Yeah. He was a great cat, man. Him and I hit it off really well, and it was beyond the music and everything. We would go on road trips together. We'll have
That's
to do
awesome.
we'll have to do another show about that.
Yeah. Was it like Hunter S. Thompson kind of?
Yeah,
Yeah.
he's a character, man. But
Oh,
he,
yeah.
when it came to him doing his gig, fuck it. Right? You've seen it, Brent, right?
Mhm.
Like he knew what he was doing. I don't know what
I was very into it. Like when it was on, it was serious and it was very inspiring. And of course, as the day went on and there was a few, pops a few too many pops, then it was probably like, okay, we'll probably take a break now. But
fuck off, Rizzo.
But I was very inspired, yeah. And he did there was something about his miking techniques and, clearly he had done so many great records. And like 30 Weapons is a great sounding album because, he contributed to that sound for you guys. So I love that record.
He inspired us. At that point, we obviously had our shit together to the point where we, and we always did a lot of pre-production and made sure we had it together. So once we saw him, we would do like 14 days of just going over what tempos and endings and blah, 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 maybe little things. And then he, on Weapons, actually, after I think the first day, he said, "Oh, we need one more tune, right? Go write a ballad." And so we went back and wrote Doesn't Matter in about 20 minutes.
That's great.
Wow.
Which was a big hit. Aaron and I were talking just before the show that we were trying to remember because I like that song a lot, yeah.
Yeah, that's probably our biggest tune, for sure. But he was just he would inspire you, you know what I mean? He was really good with everybody. But I don't know, I could say so many things about him. You know what I mean? I think it's an education money can't buy, but you sure do pay for.
Yeah. You really don't get characters like that anymore, do you?
No.
I mean, it's not really. Guys like him are so talented that he can kind of get away with a lot of those years. But I think it's a different business these days as far as, those kind of characters kind of get squeezed out somehow, I guess.
Yeah, well, does that even happen? You go in and work on an album for that long in the studio, and who's got that kind of budget? And or people are doing it in their basements. They went to Long McQuaid and bought a studio and went to their basement. I made it at home. That's why it sounds so shit.
It's a different time entirely now, but yeah, I think that it's amazing that you have that connection to all those Led Zeppelin and Rolling Stones records. I mean, that's firsthand for you.
He would never talk. He didn't talk much about it. He did tell me a few things if he got going and everything. Then I'd hear the same story 500 times.
Yeah.
But the guy, he was great at what he did. That was is that kind of thing gone?
Well, I think that there's obviously guys who are good at helping put sounds and songs together. Yeah, who's dog?
I don't know. I heard one on your end.
There he is. It's there.
That's my dog. That's my dog responding to your dog. Yeah.
Yeah. Jack, wait down.
They're having their own.
It's not your show.
Yeah. They're having their own interviews.
Yeah. But yeah, I love the Johns. Well, I could talk about him. We could do a whole nother show on that. He's
That's
just
amazing.
Awesomeness. And it's great, Brett, you got to work with him. That's awesome.
Yeah, it is.
I know, yeah.
You know yes.
I was going to say, just because your background looks a little cooler than ours, are you in your backyard? Are you a house guy? Are you
we have a house.
outside of town? Where do you live?
We're in Aurelia.
Oh,
yeah.
It's Casino Rama's like 5 minutes from here. Yeah, we live in an old part of town. This house was built in 1904.
Oh.
We've been here since 2013. I love it. My wife wants to move.
Oh yeah.
What's the move? Where does she want to go?
I don't know. Not here.
So just going back to songs in general, and we always, have this kind of back and forth. I know 2013 you did a acoustic album, Wireless. If anybody hasn't checked that out, go and do so. It's fantastic. Somewhere in that process, you had to select, obviously, from your whole catalog, a number of songs to do. Any favorites stand out over time? And if so, I'm trying to encourage these guys to do a Killer Dwarf song. If you had one in particular, what would be that song?
There you go.
That's a good question.
I need some helium to get up to those fucking notes.
Oh. I'll fix you up. Yeah, that record. It's just like some of the ones I really like, and the players that I had on there. Glenn Belcher is an amazing artist, and the producer Fred Duvall, who's been with me at least 30 some odd years. But those guys were, and my manager, he was involved in it too. He played on it, Rob Zacks. They really, I was probably against it. I didn't want to do it. And they kind of forced me to do it. There was a lot of shit going on in my life at that point. But I'm super happy with it. It turned out really well, thanks to those guys and their efforts. Like, I just sang the damn thing. But they really, they deserve a lot of credit for that. But as far as you guys doing a song, I'd have to look to the thing. Something off Madness, maybe. I don't know.
Yeah, I'd love to hear your thoughts on that. Yeah.
Yeah. Let me think about that.
It's a vast catalog.
Yeah.
Darren already has a song in mind.
Well, I've always thought that you guys would do a great version of Dirty Weapons myself, but I mean,
Yeah, that is a good one.
Weapons. Well, you have to do two then.
Yeah,
do a Hard Luck Town. I like that one too. That would be a good one. Yeah, like,
So-
but yeah, there's tons to choose from. It would really come down to. We always like to think what your suggestion would be.
Yeah.
Two for.
I'm gonna look it up because I think a deeper track. There's a lot of great tunes on Madness.
Outside of Killer Dwarfs, we do a lot of Canadian covers. As I think I'm not sure how aware you are, but we've done 2 records of cover songs by April Wine and Rush and blah, blah, blah. Is there anybody else? Because when you were growing up, it was Rick Derringer and Alice Cooper. Was there a Canadian band or a Canadian artist?
Well, obviously Rush, or I would lose my passport.
You got to change your hat too then.
April Wine.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Pardon me. Anyways, dude, I was Canadian, eh? Hey.
But you actually lived in Jacksonville, so you got elected.
I lived in Jacksonville, yeah. I love Americans and I love the States.
Yeah.
April Wine, huge fan of the wine.
That's a really think
like
about.
hit after hit after hit.
Yeah.
I would love to cover one.
They're still going too. We did a festival last year or a year before, and April Wine was on the bill.
Yeah, I saw them a couple of years ago. Somebody got me tickets, and it was at a little theater out Mississauga or something, and they got me like front row, dead center in front of Miles. And oh no, it was like, it's like soccer bomb place or something. Library, right? Like, it was all peaceful and quiet. It wasn't like a rock show. Well, it was a rock show, but you know what I'm saying.
Yeah.
It was like a library. And I felt like, oh my God, I got to get up and take a piss. Everybody in the place. And I thought Miles kept giving me the stink eye. I was like, oh my God, of course, they love this guy. Death threat. Then after the show, the road manager came over and said, hey, Miles wants to say hi to you. And I was like, what? So I went back and we had a little chat. But I totally love that guy. I totally love April Wine.
Talented cat. Yeah, they've done a lot of great songs. Yeah.
Holy ballad king.
What was that like back when you guys were doing your thing? Because we've talked to so many guys. We talked to a lot of prairie guys over the years, like Harlequins, Treeheart, like a bunch of those. Yeah, all those bands sort of like floated in and out to be each other's kind of like orbit a little bit. You know what I mean? But Dwarfs being on your guys' is rubbing shoulders with.
Like
Santers.
Santers, exactly.
I play with Santers and Anvil and stuff like that. But
Sure, yeah.
I think you're on the road playing those hotels and stuff for like 6 nights in a row. You're only seeing people when you're coming in and coming out. Coney Hatch, for sure. We all know everybody knows each other from that elk. From the Toronto elk.
That's the thing. There's a lot of bands that came out of that hangout there. Brighton Rock.
Brighton Rock. Great friends too.
Yeah.
Jerry McGee and the boys, like all great guys. Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
What was it like doing the Headbangers Ball with Rob Halford?
Otto.
Gatto. Gatto's the big one every time you talk to Toronto guys. They're always like, Gatto.
shit out of the bars. It was incredible. Like, if
I
you
heard
saw them, it's like, you know, when you said you went and saw the dwarfs at the zoo, this was like me sneaking in at 16 years old to the Queensberry Arms, you know, and getting kicked out of there too. But they blew the fucking doors off the place.
Yeah, I can only imagine.
Tino's a super close friend of mine.
That's awesome.
He played on one of my solo albums. I have another solo album with my partner Dave Rayholm called Penny Black. It came out in 2001 for about 10 minutes. I think it went paper. But it just got reissued. We just reissued it, and it's the first freaking album I've ever been in the black on it. But Gino plays on that record.
That's awesome.
You can look it up in the "Where Are They Now" bin. Where are you? I don't trust him. He's probably getting his skunk.
That would make for a great podcast.
Oh yeah, especially in
I
the
wanted to ask about when you were on with Rob Halford on the. Did you guys ever tour with Priest, or was that just kind of a total?
Yeah, we never toured with Priest. It was just one of those setups. We were hosting Headbangers Ball.
That's what it was. You were hosting.
Yeah, I think didn't I tell you this story the other day on that other?
No,
I
meant to ask
the Long Island story and everything.
No.
Oh my God. You know, we were on that. What fucking tour was it? It must have been Big Deal. Anyways, we had this bus, and it was like a '66 MCI. It was like the cottage from hell, we called it. It was like, you know, oh, you woke up in Arizona and the air conditioning broke it, and everybody. But anyways, so we were in Long Island or something, and we had to go in to do MTV, and we had no. We tried to get a day room, and of course we didn't have any money. So our road manager at the time had a brilliant idea. Let's go to the YMCA in Manhattan. Here's your towel, sir. Here's your 75 cents. That was what a fucking scene. I'm not going to tell you what happened in there, but Jesus H. Christ. Show business is so glamorous.
Yeah.
So anyways, we ended up doing MTV, and Rob was the greatest cat. You know, God, he's a freaking god. He's a metal god. He's
metal god, yeah.
Rob fucking Halford, right? So, you know, and he was so cordial and sweetest guy in they shrunk him down on her shoulder and called him Rob Pixie Dwarf. He came to the show that night, actually.
Amazing.
And that's great.
Yeah, I bet.
So what's the future look like for the band once all of this COVID is hopefully behind us?
Band.
Yeah.
This band. We've got a few things coming up. Apparently, we were supposed to be in Belgium right now.
Oh, wow.
That ain't happening. Apparently. I think. I don't know. You know, I haven't seen the guys in 6 months. It would be nice to see everybody. It's been great, peaceful.
Yeah, I bet.
Fucking bastards. But we've got M3 is rescheduled again for May, and some other stuff probably.
You guys always have done the monster cruises. Todd and I are experts on the cruise because we go to the Kiss cruise every year. But
Okay. Yeah,
those are actually great.
God,
Right? You know, the cruises
amazing.
probably, we don't know how they're going to fare in the future, but
Yeah.
they were great.
Yeah, we've been on about 7 of the Monsters of Rock cruises. They're having it on land this year, in May. They're doing it in Canada. So and guess who's headlining it?
Ooh.
You guys.
The only rock star that I've never met.
Oh,
Alice fucking Cooper.
oh, wow, cool.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Amazing.
So that's in May, and I don't know, man. Like, are the casinos open out west yet?
Sort of. Yeah, there's some casinos over here, but I think it's all very strange and masks and.
What about Winnipeg?
I think to a limited capacity. Some of them are open, but I mean, they obviously.
Like, they're not having shows. Though, right?
Some of the clubs are though. There are
There's
club
live
shows.
shows.
Yeah.
There is some live shows.
I don't know how they're doing that, but
Oh, really?
Live shows are happening.
Yeah.
Live shows in Winnipeg are happening, yes.
Oh, okay, wow.
Well, I don't know.
Normal. Like,
Yeah,
social
Most of the
distance
bands
and
don't
kind of-
notice the difference in terms of attendance, though, so it's okay, you know.
I don't want to. I don't want. I don't want to sing in front of a salad guard.
No, I know.
Not happening, and I don't want to sing in a drive-in. For God's sake.
Those are so weird, right? I can't imagine.
Unless I get free shrimp
Exactly.
rolls.
There you go. People are saying like it's like if they like you, they honk their horn and stuff. I think they kind of, I think they kind of sit on top of on the hood of their car or something like that. And I'm like, it's very strange, the whole thing.
Everybody could keep their motors running. That'd be good.
There you go. Everybody.
Well, hey, there's a lot of bands.
poisoning.
This whole past weekend, last weekend, that have been playing Sturgis.
Yeah, I saw that.
Shit.
Including
Canadian.
Canadian band over the border played and went back. So, there are gigs happening.
What Canadian band?
Guess Who? Yeah. So, but I mean, LA guys, nothing going on there, right? Shane and
Nothing.
Corey.
I think who knows? I guess we're screwed until who knows when. But I miss playing. But then I know when I get out there, I'm gonna be going, fuck this. I want to go home. You know the drill,
Yeah.
right? I want my own bed.
Yeah, exactly.
Right?
So Russ, who's your team in the playoffs? Is your team in there, or who are you cheering for?
Biden or Trump? What do you mean? Hockey. Honestly, I'm not a sports guy whatsoever, but
Okay.
go Sabres.
Okay.
Oh, interesting.
You know,
They're not in it, but they did a lot better this year. Or,
I'll see it out, but at least they're consistent.
It's like loving the Jets. It's so hard to be a Jets fan. But,
Is it? I like your logo.
Yeah.
It's good, huh?
Yeah, I like that new logo, the plane. That's cool.
It does look awesome.
I come from I had a lot of sports in my family. My dad was like a referee and chief. He was Mr. Hockey and golf and every sport on demand kind of thing. I got it driven out of me. I played hockey for years and everything too. My claim to fame with hockey is I did a Post Alphabets commercial with Bobby Orr when I was 11.
What?
Right.
Yeah, there you go. Top that, fuckers.
That's untoppable. That's untoppable. That is the Wayne Gretzky of the 70s.
Well, what can I say, man? I never ate cereal after that, I'll tell you that.
Oh, I bet. Yeah. That was enough alphabets for you.
Jesus.
Man, alphabets were delicious.
I know, but not when you got to eat it for like hours on end, and the lights have made the milk sour, and it's like,
Yeah. They still make alphabets? Does anybody know?
I don't know. But Captain Crunch is still out
Yeah,
there.
tearing the roof
course,
off of
yeah,
mouths
yeah.
for generations.
Yeah.
The alphabet's mascot was the Wizard
Yes.
of Words.
Well, that's dead.
That's it, exactly. No one wants to learn.
A wizard of euphemisms.
Is alphabets a Canadian thing? Because I don't think I've
No.
ever seen it down here.
Really?
Bits.
Oh, that's
I don't know
alphabet?
about it. Yeah.
Alphabet. Like there were bits, so there were like letters. It was basically like alphabet soup or something like that. But
You guys probably didn't get it. It's
Yeah.
in kilometers.
well played.
That is,
Well played. Yeah, I'm kind of the same way with sports. I think I played it so much as a kid, and I was raised in such a heavy sports kind of thing that when music found me, I just checked out entirely. I still love it, and I check in when I can, but it's not. I'm not real super passionate about it. But it's been interesting living in the States because watching the Golden Knights happen here in Vegas really reignited a lot of that passion because watching an entire city just become infected with this sort of fever that you kind of forgot existed because in the States.
Infected.
Yeah.
Yes, that's the name.
Now we're infected with other things, but yeah. So it's been interesting, witnessing that happen. So who knows?
Dunk is
Yeah.
the huge hockey guy. He's Leaf guy forever, and he loves the football Bucks. That's his team. Go Dunk.
Go Dunk, yeah.
He always goes down once a year to see an NFL game. And,
We'll have to have Dunk on one of these times.
yeah, you gotta have Dunk on. He's way funnier than I am. And he's the Leafs they're out again, right?
Yeah.
Yes,
See,
they are.
Yep.
they're consistent.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But,
Well,
Jets.
I'm kind of one of those guys that I think it'd be a great thing to see. I think it'd be great to see the Leafs win a cup.
Well, here's my other hockey story. I was at the Stanley Cup when the Leafs won with my dad.
Whoa. Was that like Daryl Sittler days? When was
It was
that?
like 1967 or something, for
Oh my
Christ's
God.
sake. You weren't even a twinkle in your parents' thing.
That's true.
Yeah. Who was on the Leafs back then? I'm trying to think.
It was Moses, Jesus Christ, I think.
Little known fact, Jesus was the Maple Leaf.
I think all the players are listed in that hip song somewhere. You know. Yeah.
Yeah.
Bill Barilko, everyone.
I
Bill
think-
Barilko.
Bill Barilko, yeah, for sure.
Eddie Sharp.
Eddie Shack.
Oh yeah.
There you go.
All right.
It's come to this talking about fucking hockey.
Yeah, I know. That's
Canadian show.
It happens on this show. It's
You guys are the Canadian. You guys are Canadian.
Next week we're gonna have Brian Fulmer. Do you have any questions for him?
Brian.
From here?
Brian. Linda. Every time we talk, like if I call this house and
Yeah, he's beautiful. Like his people.
Linda will be answering. Brian. It's Russ. Who? Brian forgets who I am so many times that I've known him for 40 years. I could be right in his face. I think the first cruise we did, I did it with my solo gag, and we just got on the ship, and we were on the deck there where when everybody gathers, and there's Brian comes out of the pool, and Linda's there, and Linda's like, Brian, look who it is, and he's right in my face. Who are you? Who are you? And recently, I was at a charity gig with him, and it's the same thing. I'm standing with Linda talking to her, and he comes up, and she's like, "Oh, Brian, look!" And he goes, "Who are you?" Like I had a beard on. I had a big beard too. And he goes, he's right in my face. Who are you? I said, "I'm Lemmy." Oh, he said, "Like, nice to meet you." Hi, it's Ross. Helix, what can you say about those guys? Like, holy fucking veterans.
Yeah, they're veterans for real. Yeah,
Absolutely.
I'm looking forward to it. It's gonna be fun.
Yeah, we played a couple shows with them and kickbacks in the last 2-3 years. We come out west and do the casinos with those cats, and we all have fun. Oh my god, we
Yeah.
have too much fun actually.
The week after, we're having Victor from Kick-Axe on. So there
And
you go.
Victor, I love Victor. He's one of my best buddies, man. Like, tell him I fuck
He's a
them.
legend.
Fuck kickbacks.
No, I love kickbacks.
Fuck
Yeah,
them.
we're prairie folk. We have to love those guys for real.
No, we're huge fans, man.
Yeah, they're great.
Always love those guys. Great albums. Like, and they killed. Like, that's when I saw them in Winnipeg
Yeah,
back in the olden days. Like, and they just ripped the fucking roof off the place.
I bet.
That is awesome.
Yeah.
Killer.
Well, enjoy your beautiful day there in Aurelia, Ontario, because I know in a few months you'll be hiding
Yeah.
indoors.
About 10 minutes. It's chilly here today.
Is it really? There
Yeah,
you
it's
go.
only-
Yep.
Yeah.
It's getting a little chilly in Winnipeg. Is that
Well,
right
it
here?
depends on what you consider chilly. I mean, Brent probably thinks it's getting a little chilly, but I going to enjoy it while we can. So
It's this is Las Vegas right now.
Oh shit.
112.
Oh, it's hot.
Owie. We're
I haven't been outside in 100 years.
underneath.
108 in the Valley in Los Angeles.
Okay, so we're coming to the valley. I'm bringing all the dwarfs to stay at your place this one.
There you go. What is it in Simi Valley?
there you go.
96.
Oh man, it's so much cooler
Warm
there.
here.
Okay, so you
That's
got
not bad.
Metro.
Not at all.
It's 40 below here already.
Oh God.
Well, it's 40 below, and I don't
Well, thanks
Fantastic.
so much, Russ.
Thanks for having me, guys.
I honestly think we could probably do this for 4 more hours and still never reach the bottom of the stories. So
Yeah.
Well, it was a lot of fun, and thanks for having me on. You got to get Dunk on.
yeah.
Get me and Dunk on at the same time.
Oh, I can only. What we'll do is we'll have him on to counter all your stories with his point of view. on it.
Yes, well, yeah. We'll say, Yeah, it'll be a huge fight. We'll break up on your show. We
I don't want to do that.
We usually break up every night when we play, so it's
Consistent.
Nothing.
yes, consistency. That has been the theme of this whole show.
Awesome. All right. Well, thanks again, Russ, for coming on, and we will see everybody back here, same time, same place, next Tuesday. Have a good day.
That's right. With Brian Walmart.